Welcome into CFB with JD, the People's Channel, for every single thing that you know, that you love about college football that happens here, and it happens on a nearly daily basis. Armstrong Sims, Jack McKenzie, really doing the heavy lifting behind this operation. You can help drive the show at my Twitter page, at JD Piquel. So Texas finds themselves in a very interesting spot going into the 2022 season. I already did a video talking about things that I'm interested to watch in the spring, and the spring game's coming up, and it'll be here in no time at all. It sounds like Quinn Ewers and Xavier Worthy had a field day in their scrimmage this past Saturday. But let's take a step back, and let's put this whole thing in perspective, and let's take a look at the big picture. What are some things that you can expect? What are some things you can bank on if you're a Texas fan heading into the 2022 season? So let's just talk about that. We were in a Twitter Spaces not too long ago with 40 Acres Landlord. Again, he's the Don. Him and Texas Homer are Dons on Twitter for the Texas community, people that I respect and value their opinion a lot when it comes to everything Texas football. And so we jumped in that Twitter Spaces and we put out a question. And we just said, what would be improvement? What would be improvement for you if you're a Texas fan? And a lot of them said 8 wins, a lot of them said 7 wins, a lot of them said Big 12 title would be an improvement, and that's a very fair analysis. But I think at the end of the day, that was one resounding sentiment, is improvement feels inevitable for this program going into 2022. Now, a piece of that is because there's not a lot more ways you could go backwards if you're Texas. And that sounds harsh, but I think that's the reality, and I think that's what a lot of other Texas fans would agree on. Texas went 5-7 a season ago. That is unacceptable for what they expect at UT. That's unacceptable for, quite frankly, the amount of investment they have at UT, and it's unacceptable for the roster they have at UT. So Steve Sarkisian is not going to let that happen a second time. They're going to have more than 5 wins. They have some favorable games at home. They get Baylor at home. They get Iowa State at home. Now, those are not necessarily favorable opponents, but those are opponents that you're glad you have in Austin. You get Alabama week 2. We will learn a lot about this program. I've said it every single time we talk about Texas on this program. You will learn a lot about Texas when Alabama comes to town. Very excited for that. In addition to the 5-win number being a mark that I anticipate they surpass, there's also a lot of uncertainty within this conference that I think will cater to that. Oklahoma, for all of the hype, all the buzz, all of the things that I think they have in store, and all the things I've already said about them on this program, there's still some uncertainty. You got a new OC, you got a new head coach, you got a new quarterback. Baylor lost a lot in that offensive backfield, lost a lot on defense. Iowa State will look like a completely different team. TCU, new head coach. You see where I'm going with this? There's a lot of new things in the Big 12 that I think could eventually cater to what Texas is going to be able to do on the football field. Now, in that same token, Texas has got a lot of new things too. New quarterback, a lot of new weapons. So we'll see how much that meshes. But at the end of the day, I think it is inevitable that Texas wins more than 5 games and will have an improvement this coming season in 2022. Second, you got stability at the quarterback position. That's something you can expect for Texas going into this coming season. Now, some of that is going to be dependent on the resolute nature of Steve Sarkisian when it comes to Quinn Ewers. Facts are the facts. You brought Quinn Ewers there to be the guy. Somebody commented on a tweet that I put out the other day. We did a breakdown on Quinn Ewers, and I tweeted out a snippet of that, and someone commented back and said, love it, which thank you for that. Second, they said, Quinn Ewers didn't come here to sit. He didn't come back to Austin to sit, which I think is a beautiful summary of what you can expect from Ewers going into this 2022 season. The facts are still the facts. Regardless of how highly he was rated out of high school, regardless of all the things you expect from him coming into this 2022 season, you're going to have Quinn Ewers be your quarterback. Like, he's going to be the guy. And that would be refreshing for a lot of Longhorn fans because you had Hudson Card, then you had Casey Thompson, Hudson Card again, you had Casey Thompson again. I think that hindered Texas a lot. I think that hindered Texas's growth a lot as the season wore on, because when you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. So I fully expect Quinn Ewers to be the guy. It sounds like more and more as we hear things out of spring camp that he's going to be the guy game 1, and I think that's beautiful. Now, the reality is you're going to have to stick with Quinn Ewers because he's going to be a first-year starter. And when I say you're going to have to stick with him, you're going to have to stick with him through all of those growing pains. And I'm encouraged because I get more and more the sense that's what Steve Sarkisian will do. He's committed to the potential of Quinn Ewers, and that's something that's very beautiful, and I think will ultimately serve Texas well in the long run. My wife and I recently got married, went through premarital counseling, and one of the things they tell you when you go into marriage is the person you marry on your wedding day is going to be a different person 5 years from your wedding day. This is a little bit weird, but stick with me. Quinn Ewers is a different quarterback right now with Steve Sarkisian when you've committed to him than he's going to be at the end of this season, at the beginning of his junior season, the beginning of his senior season, if he's still there. You have to be married to the potential and committed to Quinn Ewers for the long run. That's the only way this thing is going to work. He's going to have to take his lumps. He's going to have to figure out some things. They're going to have to get in some arguments, going to have some different disagreements. Steve Sarkisian might have to sleep on the couch 1 or 2 nights, but it's going to eventually work, and I think that's something that you have to be committed to. The only way it's going to eventually work is if you're committed to it, if you're bought into the potential of what that marriage could be. Weird enough for you. Let's move on. Third and final thing you can expect from Texas in 2022 is points scored. They scored 35 a year ago. That was best for top 20 in the country. Bijan Robinson, Xavier Worthy, Isaiah Nayor, Jaleel Billingsley, Quinn Ewers, if he ends up being all that in a bag of chips. There's a lot of pieces on this offense to score points. Not to mention, I think Steve Sarkisian's a mastermind offensively. To be able to do what they did a season ago with how bad they were at times culture-wise, having 2 quarterbacks, like that should excite Texas fans. I don't know that Texas fans understand they scored 35 a year ago, 17th best in the country. That's really good. They should only get better, and so that's something that you should be able to bank on is, okay, if we get into shootouts, we get into shootouts, but we should feel okay getting into those shootouts based on our weapons, based on our system, and based on how much we got under the hood here at Texas. You're going to be able to score points. So to sum this whole operation up, you have to be comfortable going through the awkward phase. You look at Quinn Ewers, you look at that head of hair, look at that beautiful mullet. I guarantee you there was a time when Quinn Ewers was going through an awkward phase with that hair. People were saying, Quinn, what are you doing, man? You got this kind of long, short thing going. You got a weird fringe. It's blonde. It's not looking exactly how it should look. But Quinn Ewers just committed to it, allowed it to happen, stuck with the process, stuck with what he was being told was best for him as he continued to mature in that mullet. And finally, the mullet looks good. I think Texas is going to have to accept the awkward phase that they're in right now. Second year under Sark, first year for Ewers, first year for a lot of these playmakers. It's a little bit of an awkward phase. You're establishing your identity as a team, as a program under Sarkisian. That's okay. You have to accept the awkward phase of what Texas football is right now to get to that lush head of hair that Quinn Ewers now has. It's going to take some time. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be pretty all the time. But improvement, stability at quarterback, scoring points. 3 things you can expect and bank on for Texas in their 2022 campaign. That's it for us here at CFB with JD. This has been the Hard Count. Again, we do a video nearly every single day. Would encourage you to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at JD Pickell. That's a really easy medium for us to hear from you to drive the show. Before we get out of here, huge shout out to the Cornell equipment team. We put out a call to action on one of our recent videos and said, hey, if you have memorabilia that you want to get on the show, we're not going to give it back. We're going to try and take care of you, but we would love to have some more memorabilia on the show. So the Cornell equipment team and Greg Lyons said, say no more. Hooked us up with a beautiful helmet right behind me over my shoulder. Very thankful to them and for their contribution. Go Big Red. That's it for us here at CFB with JD. We're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time.